Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Here today, we've got an update on the 2026 midterm elections, specifically the House of Representatives, with all of the rumors out there, the redistricting that's going on, the war that will be won by the Republicans. We don't know by how many seats, but Republicans will net a gain of at least 5 or 6 seats in terms of the redistricting. And on top of that, possibly Section 2 of the VRA getting shot down. We now are looking at odds that are almost 50-50, and we'll see, because you're talking about maybe 12, 19, even more seats depending on what happens, switching through the redistricting to being Republican. It's going to give the right a lot better of a chance to hang on to the House. They should hang on to the Senate, about an 80-20% chance on that. But the House, I mean, back in April, it was around 82, 83, 17. Now it's crept all the way to around 60-40 Democrat control as we come up on a year before the 2026 midterm. So we're still a ways away. You look at the generic ballot polling, it's looking a lot better than it was even back in 2021 or 2017 relative to those midterm years, the year before I'm talking about, where the polling was versus where it is right now. It's looking a bit better. So we are seeing some things that are positive. Now, all of this is very early and it can change rapidly depending on what the administration does. Something, maybe a Supreme Court ruling like we saw in 2022. So these things can change quickly. And of course, we'll see what happens in terms of the case that was just heard by the Supreme Court on in regards to Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. If, that turns out that they don't strike it down or it doesn't happen quick enough, then you're probably going to see the Democrats go back up to around 65-70%. So there's a lot of anticipation with the redistricting through the VRA ruling by the Supreme Court, along with just the redistricting in general. Now you've got North Carolina. Trump is extremely aggressive on trying to pressure these Republican states or states that have some Republican control that can do this to try and redistrict to gain, even if it's just 1 seat, 2 seats, like in Indiana, Missouri, Ohio, Florida. Texas is the big one, and the Democrats trying to combat it, but it's not going to be enough. The Republicans will have a net gain. So the question is, what is the total net gain? Well, you look at some projections, maybe +6, +7 for Republicans. That's if California's special election goes the way they want it to, which people think it will, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Either way, this is just the update, and it really does depict a pretty sizable decrease by the Democrats within the past half year. They opened around 75, maybe a little bit less, 70-30 advantage. Now it's down to around, I guess they've ticked up a little bit from where it was even last week or a few days ago. It was about 55-45, but this is all very irrelevant. You're talking about extremely micro moves in terms of even the volume. There's only $1.1 million of volume on this. I'm sure it's going to increase significantly, obviously, as we get closer to the midterms and people start talking about it more and more. We also have this. So this was a few days ago, the Hakeem Jeffries reacting to Trump viral AI video, dumping the waste or whatever you want to call it onto the protesters, the No Kings protest. I think people take this stuff a little bit too seriously. I do understand some people saying, all right, is this not a little bit beneath you? I do. Trump, though, he's a very unique figure in terms of the amount of access he gives to the press, the total questions of transparency. And yeah, he jokes around on social media. I think people take this stuff too seriously. Like, Trump probably was sent this video by someone, or he saw it, he thought it was funny, he tweeted. Like, I feel like people think Trump is like typing in prompts to try and find a perfect AI video to own the libs. That's just not what's happening. So I don't know. I do understand. If you're the president, it's like, but I think it's very unique to have a president that's open about that. And some people obviously are not going to like it. I'm sure liberals don't like it. You've also got this. Jen Psaki says J.D. Vance is scarier than Trump. This is hilarious. You guys remember when they said this about DeSantis back in 2022? They said the exact same thing. People will be shocked, but if you remember, back in 2022, it seemed like DeSantis was the next big thing within the Republican Party. He had the amazing approval rating. Trump's stock was down. He was very polarizing after the 2020 election. Him claiming all the fraud. You had January 6th. And people were like, well, guess what? Ron DeSantis is even scarier than Trump. And they have to do that because they've made Trump such this huge villain when the Republican Party moves on, whether people think it's Vance, we'll see. They have to also ratchet it up and say, well, he's just as bad. He's actually worse because he's more calculating or he's younger. So this is the exact same thing they did they have to do it. It's like the boy who cried wolf. You can't say Trump is this like horrible, heinous person. And then Vance comes in and it's like, well, now people are going to vote for him. I mean, he can't be as bad as Trump, can he? Well, no, he's worse because he's younger and he's smarter. It's the exact same thing they did with DeSantis. You've got Tucker Carlson. I'm not going to even talk. I mean, that was an interesting exchange, but yeah, so this is what people were talking about. Trump's construction on the White House. The facade of the East Wing was getting demolished to make way. I guess this area right here, they need to clear it. And then there's going to be a connection to the ballroom. I believe this is where the ballroom is going, this plot of land, but they needed to demolish the facade of the eastern wing, of the side of the eastern wing, to be able to start the construction so they could have a big enough area. I believe this is what it is, to put the ballroom. And people are getting very angry. They said, well, Trump is demolishing the White House. You can see the area in which the construction is. And when it comes to something like the ballroom, I do think Trump definitely wants to leave his mark on the White House. But it is something that you could certainly argue was needed in terms of hosting people, foreign leaders, and having these major parties. They would have to put up temporary tents on the White House lawn to be able to have those events, which is, especially if they wanted it to be on the grounds of the White House. So it's very tacky when you're talking about hosting foreign leaders with these tents, kind of like tents you see at graduation parties. So Trump wanted a way to host 100, 150 people, at the White House for an event. And I don't even think it's going to be done until it's like the end of Trump's second term anyways. And so this is more so a legacy thing for Trump. And the construction might be finished in 2027 maybe, or maybe even 2028. I don't know, but towards the end. And so that's the story of the ballroom. And people got really angry because there's like angled shots of it, and people think, oh, he's ripping up the White House. No, it's just the facade of the East Wing, because I think that's where the ballroom is going to go. They need a little extra space there, so they had to take out that extra little awning area. You also have this: Trump on canceled meeting with Putin in Budapest. I don't want to waste my time. So I guess Trump and Putin were supposed to have a meeting, and it's not happening. And my guess is Trump got wind, and his people told him I mean, Trump and Putin have had several meetings now. They've had many phone calls. It's just not worth it for Trump to continue to do this. And if there's going to be no movement in terms of the Russians coming to negotiate for some type of peace deal. And I think it's more of a strategy for Putin, because it did come out that Putin really wanted to meet Trump, and that's why that meeting in Alaska took place. And Putin kind of thought it was a major win for him. Trump thought originally it was going to be a major win for diplomacy and actually coming to an agreement. It didn't happen. It didn't even come close to happening. There really wasn't even a negotiation. The Russians don't want to negotiate right now. If they don't want to negotiate, what's the point of meeting? This is 100% what Trump should do. Otherwise, you're just being strung along by Putin, and it makes Trump look bad. There has to be concrete evidence that Putin is ready to negotiate if a face-to-face meeting is going to take place. And so especially at this point, to where they've already met face-to-face and nothing came of it. And then you've got this stuff about ICE, and I guess you should expect the Democrats to fight it, the deportation of illegals. It's like, if everything isn't perfectly done, well, honestly, you can't even do things perfectly when you're talking about removing people from the country that are here illegally when they don't want to be removed, when they're trying to hide. It tends to be pretty hard to do that without physically removing them. And then Democrats scream about that and say, well, you can't do these raids. Well, how else are we going to remove them? But it's like, I guess people should have known that the Democrats were going to make this huge stink about ICE, and they said ICE isn't properly trained. What even is the arguments here? These people, they're trying to deport illegal immigrants because it was voted on. People wanted it to happen. People want illegal immigrants to be deported. What is the issue? This is what democracy looks like. They voted for mass deportations of illegal immigrants. It's not going to be perfect. There's 20 or 30 or how God knows how many illegal immigrants in the country. Do you think they're going to act like robots and just perfectly get all the illegals? Because like they can even perfectly go in and perform a raid, and that raid will get criticized. Like you shouldn't do that. That's not human. Well, this is how else are we going to get the people out of the country? It just doesn't make any sense. There's always going to be criticism, no matter what happens. So, I mean, it is what it is. I guess it's just like, what do you want? What do you want us to do? We're trying to deport the illegal immigrants. That's why we got funding for ICE. Trump said we want to deport all illegal immigrants. We want mass deportations. People said yes. That's why we're going to vote for Trump. That's why Trump won every swing state. That's why he won the popular vote. He won everything. And it's still not good enough because ICE accidentally arrested one person. Well, yes, you're going to get that if there's 20 million illegals in the country. It's not going to be perfect 1,000, 1,000,000% of the time. What do you think this is? But it's like anything to excuse illegal immigrants being in the United States. I mean, we're already so far past this, and there's already huge problems with the United States in terms of the immigration, legal or illegal. But it's just the constant bitching about ICE. It's getting annoying. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you like the video down below. Also, follow me on X. Links to that's always in the description.